Hi, this is Jessica, the Enneagram Life Coach, and today we are talking about, this whole series we're talking about how are you hard to be in a relationship with? And today we're going to talk about our sweet type twos. For each of these Enneagram types, I'm giving 5 things that they do in relationships that really can be difficult for the people that they are in relationships with. This is partners, friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, you name it. I don't really have a way out, so to speak, for all of these behaviors. Just stop doing them, or better yet, catch yourself in the act and make a better choice in the moment with guidance from your higher power. That's how we learn new behaviors, which every one of us is thankfully very capable of doing. We now know, and so these are old habits, and they die hard, but they do die. And so let's jump right in. So, of course, type twos are heart types and they are very concerned about other people and they do actually feel pain. They empathize with other people. And so they are compelled to help other people. And that part we love, right? That's great. But what happens sometimes in two space is the two helps everybody else, and then she fixates so much on everybody else's problems that she doesn't ever take the time to address her own issues and her needs and her problems and what she wants. And when that happens, of course, she's going to burn out, and she's also going to get resentful. She's going to start getting mad, and of course, anger is an emotion that tells us somebody or something is violating our boundaries. And essentially, when it comes to twos, they're violating their boundaries because they're not setting any boundaries around themselves to allow themselves to do any self-care that they would need to do. So that's one thing that twos do in relationships that causes problems in the relationship. Another thing is twos, because they are truly hyper fixated on other people, but hyper fixated, right? Like it's to a fault. They can often play the victim or the martyr card. After all I've done for you, I do everything for you. I am the one who has, and a lot of times, the thing is, the other partner or the friend or the coworker might say, but I didn't ask you to do these things. Like, you did these things for your own ego, not for me. You did things I didn't want or need you to do. So you can't just play the card that you did XYZ because maybe they wanted you to do ABC and you just didn't ask. And so twos they can feel a lot of sadness and emotions when they don't feel like people are appreciating them. And so they can play that card of, I'm such a martyr, I've done so much. But a better question is, for twos, is did those people ask you to do those things or want you to do them? Or I will mention too, I've worked with a lot of people who have twos for parents. And a lot of times a two parent will try to play this card with children, and it's like, well, they were your children. You were supposed to take care of them. It was going to be one directional with kids, right? I know once they become adults it can be a different story, but it's there are some times where we are just obligated to do certain things for people, and we may not ever see a reciprocity of that, and that's okay. Which leads to the third thing, which is strings, giving with strings attached. And, often if a two isn't getting what she wants out of a relationship or a friendship, she might amp up the giving, thinking, or I shouldn't say thinking, with she can amp up what she does for the other person with the expectations of, well, surely now that I'm doing this for them, they will finally come around and do or say or be who I need them to be. But the other people are not mind readers, and it's not fair to ask people or expect people to read your mind. And so giving with strings attached can just make a two spiral downward even more into that shame and anger, because it feels to them like people aren't reciprocating. And again, I do want to point out, it's not wrong to say the others are not reciprocating the way you are, but the fault there, the faulty logic, we'll call it, although it's of course not logic, is The way I take care of other people will all take care of me, but we're all wired differently. So people love differently. There's more than one way to love people. And your way is not the only way. So, in other words, the people who love you are showing it in other ways, very possibly, than what you're understanding. So, just because they're not doing a certain thing that you wish they would do when you did this other thing, doesn't mean they don't love you. And in fact, the better way is just tell them what you want them to do or what you need from them. Boundaries. The fourth problem that twos can cause in relationships is twos. Now, again, boundaries are a real struggle for twos, or actually, boundaries are hard for any type that is high in agreeableness. So that's not just twos, actually. But when somebody is a people pleaser or high in the trait agreeableness from the big five, what that means is they're not good with boundaries. And they're not good with their own boundaries or your boundaries. So, we talked initially about two doesn't set her own boundaries for self-care and for recharge and taking care of what she needs. But also, she's not great at knowing where her boundaries stop with other people. And it can feel suffocating and invasive when the two is kind of sticking her nose in places where people are not inviting her to stick it. It feels very icky, sticky, too much to people when a two is over involving themselves in somebody's personal problems or decisions they're making or in their life without being asked. Part of that is because a two has the sense that she knows what's best for them, and she may really have good intentions, but it's important to know that what the two wants for that person's life might not be what the person wants for their life. So, in fact, the two doesn't always know what somebody needs, because the two is only doing that within her own framework. So knowing when to set boundaries and only helping or getting involved when asked is better than just overstepping boundaries. And the last issue with twos is because they're image types, they have a huge fear of rejection. And that fear of rejection, again, it's a form of people pleasing, right? We're kind of all of these are going back to this people pleasing issue that twos really wrestle with. And it's a real issue. I don't mean to minimize these things. It's a daily task for a two to come back to the reality that she is already loved and lovable. But when she forgets that, she has this fear of rejection that prohibits her from being truly herself in relationships and saying honestly what she needs to say, which is usually has to do with what she needs or wants. Because, or even like if she's going through a hard time, she might not want other people to know that because she has this false story that if she has needs of her own, then people won't love her. And that's not true. So, realizing that people who love you no matter what, and they want you to speak up and voice what you need to voice. That is helpful in relationships. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm sorry, twos. I wasn't trying to be hard on you. I'm hard on all the types because people struggle. And also remember, for any of these videos, you don't have to be a two to connect to two space. So many of these videos are relevant to all of us because these are just human behavior patterns. All right, guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about type 3.